Hi everyone, it's Niamh here. Welcome back to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be looking at inspired collage, and today we're focusing on the style of Teesha. And Teesha is an American artist who's been art journaling for years now, at least 20 if not more, and has been responsible for doing lots and lots of zines focused on art journaling, and she's probably who you would think of as sort of starting off this art journaling trend way before. And if you see people like Delusions, a lot of the stuff that she does is actually influenced by Teesha. So what I've started off with is in my Delusions journal, painting the background with two colours of Delusions paint. One was vibrant turquoise and the other one's bubblegum pink. Now all I've done is just gone through my collage stash of lots of different magazines. This one's National Geographic, fashion magazines, free postcards that you pick up from coffee shops. This is a screen print that I did years ago that I had sitting in my stash. Lots and lots of different pieces, and all I'm doing is cutting them into strips. And these strips are going to form the border for my 2 pages. Now I'm starting off doing 2 pages at once, just getting 2 prepared, and then I'll focus on the pink side to do the collage, the Teesha inspired collage. The pieces of paper I'm cutting up now are printouts just from my laser printer of previous journal pages that I have. The backgrounds I use to paint when I'm painting the edges of my journal, any seepage, I just put a piece of watercolour paper behind, and anything inks, overspray of inks and so on go on there. I've got stencils, that goes on there, and they've turned into these amazing pieces of art in their own right. So all I'm doing now is just using my Tombow mono adhesive to glue down strips of paper in a completely random way. Not particularly worried about colours clashing and so I'm trying to see if it works okay. For example, there's a very turquoise piece on the turquoise page that I sort of play around with a little bit. That's an old piece of newspaper. You can see I didn't use a trimmer to cut my pages or to cut my strips. They're all different shapes and sizes. They've got wonky edges and I really like that. The gold that you can see me putting down is gold glimmer washi tape from Kmart, and it was really cheap and I just love it. It just adds that little splash of colour. So this is a really easy way to create a quick and easy border for your page. There's no real thought process to what I'm doing apart from, does it fit in? Do I need to chop something? Do I need to add a piece over the top just to blend it in a little bit? And as you'll see as I go through at the end, I go back to work on the border again. So this again is just sort of setting up the scene for what I'm going to be doing later. What I'm working on is just an old IKEA mat that I used to cut into, and it's a great glue pad. So when I'm gluing something down, I try to glue it on that. Quite often I forget and just glue straight to my journal page, but when I'm actually thinking, I use something else so I don't get glue on my page. So now all I'm doing is just trimming off the edges because it's something I forget to do, so if I do it now I'll remember. What I'm doing now is just going through my collage box and just finding some images. I know for this page, I don't really have an idea for it, but I know I want to use a figure. I want to do one of my collage dolls, and in my journal, in my YouTube channel, you will see I've already got a video on how I've collected the images to create my art dolls. So they look a bit weird and wonky, but this is something that Teesha does a lot of. She cuts apart pieces and makes them look really odd, puts odd sort of shapes together, plays with the proportions of the face, you know, huge eye, tiny eye, big lips, small face type thing, small body. So everything's sort of out of whack and looks unusual because it becomes really, really eye-catching. I've used a Tim Holtz paper doll, and the reason I did this was I could have just cut a piece of paper into a random shape to make a body, but I sort of wanted to have that sort of body shape already, and all I did was cover it over with washi tape. Now I could have used some of the scraps I had from the edge of my borders to glue over the top of that collage body, but I decided I've got the washi tape sitting there. I don't use it very often, so I might as well break into that. Now all I'm doing is cutting a bit of a hat, basically just a triangle. Again, this is sort of a theme. If you have a look at a lot of Teesha Moore's work, she tends to do a lot of these circus type hats, and I suppose one of her old businesses was sort of to do with circus type images and carnival type images, so that kind of seems quite I can't even think of the word, very obvious for her type of working. So I'm just using some chalk pastels. I'm using Frenchville chalk pastels. They're a fairly cheap brand, and I'm just scraping them onto the surface of the acrylic paint and rubbing them in with my finger. Then I'm going over with just a clean sponge and rubbing off the excess. Now the reason I'm doing this is I want to sort of darken the edges just to give it a bit more of a focus. Where it goes to the edge, it's a little bit darker. Usually chalk pastel will come off, but by rubbing it in with your finger, the oils in your finger will actually make it permanent on the page. So once I'd done that, it wasn't going to go anywhere. Now I'm flicking over some liquid chalk marker, and these ones are Texture liquid chalk wet white marker, which I found in my local newsagents, and they're amazing. I bought them when I was doing this page, and I had so much fun playing with them. They're really, really bright neon colours, and they just stand up beautifully. It's a 15mm chisel tip, and you can do awesome funky patterns with them. So you'll see those in the border later on. They also dry really, really quickly. And on glossy surfaces, they will wipe off, but on porous surfaces, they actually do stay permanent. So that's just using some Posca paint pens to go over the top. And I used a Stabilo oil pencil just to highlight a little bit of the girl's clothing, so it didn't seem as odd. So now I'm just playing with where I'm going to actually place the doll. I know I want to put a quote down one side and do some journaling on this page, because that's also something that Teesha Moore is very much into, that art journaling is actually about journaling and getting your thoughts down on the page. That is as integral to the page as the artwork. And it's something I know when I've been doing my art journaling, while I'm creating the piece, I'm sort of journaling in my head, but sometimes it's actually nice to put it down on paper. So it was really freeing doing that on both pages when I create them, actually journaling on the page and putting down what I was doing, what I was thinking about when I was making these. So now what I'm doing is finding a piece of collage ephemera that I can ground my collage doll to the base of my page. I don't mind that it's going over the top of the border, that's fine, it sort of brings her out into focus. So the collage paper I'm using, again, has been in my stash for years. It's from an old Australian company called Collections. You might still be able to find some of their stuff around. So now I'm just going back on the border, and because I knew I was pasting something over the top of it, I wanted to put some colour behind it. So again, using those neon pens just to put some squiggly lines in the background. Using the chalk pastels again, I'm just going around the edge of that piece of craft card just to give it a bit of a definition so it stands out. And I'm using mixed media adhesive from iCraft to glue that down. I have no idea what actually came, oh, I do know what came over me. When I started this project, I went to use my HEG double-sided tape dispenser, and I ran out of tape, or it broke, or something happened to the tape, so I couldn't actually get it out. So that's why I'm using liquid glues. It's not usually something I would pick up, I have to say, and I would recommend, if you're using glossy magazine images, I wouldn't use liquid glue, because you can see it's sort of starting to wrinkle in the background, and with the wet glue underneath, I could actually rub off some of the ink on the foreground, and you'll see me later go back in. There's some white spots on her lips, so that's where the ink's rubbed off from the glue underneath. So just use a glue stick or some double-sided tape if you're using glossy magazines. So now I'm just going in with the Stabilo oil pencil just to add some detail, drawing around their eyes just to, you know, bring more focus to it, because they need it, because, you know, they're not standing out at all. I've got the Posca pens to put in the cheeks. Going back in on the hat, the piece with the yellow crosses, that's actually an old journal page that I've scanned in and reprinted out and then repurposed on this page. That's also something that Teesha Moore's really passionate about, is don't use your piece of art once, use it lots and lots of times. So she quite often copies her work, recuts it up, rejigs it in a different way. She would take a page like this, if she liked those eyes, to copy it and recut those eyes out again and use them in another page. Now, what I'm doing here is writing in my quote. I'm using a Copic marker and I'm using the chisel edge to do this. Just writing out the quote in block lettering, trying to fit it in, not being pedantic about the size. And that's something, again, reminiscent of Teesha Moore, is she plays with size all the time, whether it's the proportions of a body in a collage image or if it's in the text, just to fit it into the space that it's going to do. It fills up and the text itself becomes part of the image, becomes a pattern in the background. So that was a very bright turquoise if it was on white paper, as you can see on my page on the side. But going on to the bubblegum pink, it sort of looks like a grey colour. I just wanted it really to give me the outline to do this part. So what I'm going around now with a fine white Sharpie paint pen is outlining all the letters, so you get that block lettering effect. And it's something I'm sure most of you have done in primary school when you're doing your projects, doing this sort of block lettering. Just having the colour in the inside just makes it even easier to go around, because you're not sort of guessing at the shapes. You've already got it written there, you're just going around the outside. And it is fairly quick. I know this is sped up somewhat, but even so it didn't take that long to complete. So once I've finished outlining it in the white, I'm going to get a darker alcohol marker in a dark grey, a warm grey, to do my shadows. And my shadows are going to be going on the bottom left hand side of all the shapes. So imagining the sun was coming from the top right hand corner, everything from the bottom left would be dark, so to speak. Just to add a bit more interest to my letters, so I'm going back with the neon paint pen and just putting in some dots, making it look almost like marquee writing. So again, it sort of stands out that bit more, and it ties in the splatters in the background. Now when I was doing this, I had no real idea of where it was going. I knew I wanted to make the doll. When I made the doll, it made me think about this, that there would lose the fear of being wrong in your art. There's no right or wrong to what you do. No one can ever say it's wrong, because you're the one who's doing it. In fact, you're the only person who says it's wrong, and to be honest, if someone else came to look at your artwork, they probably wouldn't even notice what you think's gone wrong with it. Doing something as odd as this helps kind of break out of that, because it is so odd it can't possibly be wrong. You're doing it for a reason, so it helps sort of break out of that headspace, I think. It is hard to do though, and I know some people would look at this and think, oh, I can't do this, but it is really easy, and it is just about letting yourself go and just having fun, just slapping stuff down on the page and seeing what comes of it, and looking at it and going, okay, I can try, you know, some doodling up the top here, or I can try a different colour in the background, or I can try a new medium, like when I was doing this and trying the chalk markers. I didn't know what they could do, but you know, with the tip being the way it was, it makes great stamped images. You know, you can get beautiful rectangles out of it. You can get the splatters in the background because it's quite liquid, so there's lots of things that you can do with it. What I'm doing now is just going back in with the paint pens, adding the white to the eyes to make it look more vibrant, and then adding some more of the blue. That's the James Davenport paint over pens, to add some more blue to the background. And you can see with the alcohol marker there, I was just touching up the lips. So now on the other side, I'm going to do my journaling. And again, this technique is directly inspired by Teesha. It's a type of writing I've been doing ever since I first saw her doing it, I think in 2001. And it's just drawing some random lines, curves in them, different heights, different widths, and writing in block lettering. And again, because they're so close together, it starts to look more like a pattern than actual journaling. So basically my journaling is about something that used to drive me nuts when I used to teach craft classes, was, you know, when people wanted to replicate something exactly, they wanted to know exactly the colour you were using with the texture and exactly the colour you were using with this and how much you used of that. Instead of sort of going with the flow and looking at the technique and going, yep, I can take some of that, oh, I don't like that, I can use this bit instead. There's nothing wrong with, you know, trying to replicate something in particular. It's just a pet peeve of mine, because I find that really, I find myself really boxed in, and I particularly don't like it when teachers expect you to create exactly what they've done. I've been in a few classes like that where teachers have got really ticked off with me because I've used, you know, a pink marker instead of the red marker that they used. So yeah, it's probably just me. Anyway, here's a close-up of the page. If you do like this style of journaling, I really do suggest you go and have a look on Pinterest or somewhere else for the work of Teesha Moore. It's just absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell button to know when the next part is up, and stay tuned to part 2 so you can see what I do with the turquoise page. Thanks for watching.